We continue this session of the production cycle for a cellular account. I'm picking up where we left off, and that is at the calculated cost grid once all of the data has been imported for a given billing cycle. And by clicking the calculated cost, we can see that the expected cost of $1,514.11 in TAMS matches to within 1% of the $1,522.02 billed by the supplier. We can also take note of the columns that are displayed here as the billed DN total, which is the total from the supplier invoice, versus the total cost, which is the TAMS calculated expected cost on a phone-by-phone basis. Notice that the green phones are within 1%, yellow phones are within from between 1 and 5%, and the red are greater than 5% error. So let's explore these differences and see if we can understand why the individual phones, some of them are red and yellow instead of green. This particular account is divided into two share groups. So it may make sense for us to also group our calculated cost grid by sub-account and take a look at the costs on a per line basis within each sub-account. Notice that the sub-account share group number 2 is within accuracy on all of the phones with the exception of a couple dollars, which is just outside the 1% accuracy on the phone number that ends in 8207. We can expand the phone number grouping and see individual services that are being billed. So there are the voice services, the messaging services, the data services, and the World Traveler. It's not unusual to see that if a phone has $104 in cost for international usage, we can expand that international usage to see that there was $92 in raw cost plus almost $12 in taxes for a total cost of $104. The taxes on international calling and roaming is one of the most challenging areas of taxes to accurately reproduce. And so for this example, we will consider the $2 error in that particular service to be acceptable. So we see the share group for share group 2 is matching on each phone to within 1%. It's share group 1 where we see that each phone is not matching the expected cost. And we can, instead of grouping by phone number, we might further explore this by looking at grouping them by service description. So if we come in and look at the cellular data, we can see that this share group is on a Talk 700 plan with 5 phones total in the share group, and that there were no rollover minutes available. The total usage shown by the effective peak minutes column that was actually used during this billing cycle was 1,177 minutes. So there was a 477-minute overage on this particular account. And those minutes resulted in a total overage of $214.65 according to TAMS. Let's go and explore then the invoice from the supplier and look at group 1. And on page 4 of the invoice, they show the same 5 phones in the same share group with 700 total minutes available, and that the billed minutes was 477 minutes for a total of $214.65. TAMS made this determination of $214.65 by looking at the total minutes, understanding that the plan that was marked as shared was only 700 minutes, and then on the sub-account, we can view the sub-account details through the right-click pop-up menu of View Sub-Account Details, and we can see that there's a 45-cent overage charge for those minutes on the sub-account. Furthermore, there is a checkbox that says to redistribute those costs to the individual phones. If we uncheck that box and come back and recalculate, instead of seeing the overage costs on each individual phone, the total is then on the sub-account. The way AT&T chooses a different methodology for redistributing the overage costs, and so the total overage of $477 is distributed among the various devices in such a way that causes each device to have a certain amount of overage costs associated to it. That methodology of distribution follows a different scheme than when TAMS redistributes its overage cost to the members of the share group. So when we calculate those on a per phone basis, we may see that this first phone number ending in 5092 has $12.75 apportioned of overage costs apportioned to it, whereas in the AT&T bill, there's $17.10 apportioned to it. These overage charges and how they are apportioned, the apportionment is not necessarily as relevant as making sure that the total overage cost matches, and we do have $214.65 and $214.65. So we can understand that the overage charges are all accounted for and that they are just assigned to different phone numbers in a different fashion, but that our total costs are in fact accurately represented. So we have analyzed the overage cost properly, and we do see that this particular group is running over its allowance and therefore needs to be optimized in order to maintain the minimum costs. We have previously reported this to the client and recommended that the plan be changed, but so far over a 3-month cycle they have not taken action on our recommendation, despite multiple instances of that notification. So at some point, you know, the client is responsible for accepting those recommendations and seeing that the costs can be controlled by further optimizing the account. So this is an example of the cell usage profile graph, which is quite useful when examining these share groups. And this high-level chart shows the total usage on all phones on the account. But we can drill down on a sub-account and explore the usage on this particular account. I did not include the June invoice, so let's regenerate this account, or this graph, and make sure that we include the current month. There, so we now have the graph for the entire account, and when we drill down on the sub-account, we get its usage profile. So beginning in March is when it started to exceed the 700 minutes. And clearly we could optimize this by increasing its usage to the next higher plan, and I'll demonstrate how that is accomplished. If we go and examine through the right mouse click the primary cell phone details and look at the history, we can see that they were changed back in May to, actually back in January, to a 700-minute plan, when in fact they were on a 1,400-minute plan. So if we want to recommend that they be put back on a 1,400-minute plan, we would right-click and say Optimize on the primary phone. This will automatically set the effective date. We will move this out into the future arbitrarily far out so that we will only come back and change the effective date once it's actually been approved and implemented. And we can filter the plans by our mnemonic or a naming scheme for this particular client. see that for an extra $20, they could be saving $245 in overage costs. And then we would leave it on this share group 1. We might change the title once it's actually implemented to make it a 1,400-minute share group, but we just then set the optimization to the 1,400 and show that that is now the, if we go look at the phone details, we can see in the history for this phone under the cellular that on 1/1/2020, we would recommend that that be moved up to a 1,400-minute plan. So that is one area of examination for optimization. These can be done and also be grouped by a service description nature at the top level. And then we can sort the total cost in descending order so that we can look at the cost, let's say, for messaging and see which phones are incurring very large messaging costs from the highest to lowest. And we see that one phone is on a 200 messaging plan, but it costs $11.84. The bulk of those charges, though, did not come from domestic messaging, but rather from international roaming messaging. And those are typical charges that can not be further optimized. Similarly, there's a phone with $11, but it's on a $10 messaging plan. If you want to, you can explore the messaging usage profile of a given service by right-clicking and saying Show Usage Report. And this will show the messaging profile for this particular phone within the requested time frame, so that we can see if the 1,000 messaging plan is still appropriate, and you can see from this graph that it is. So we can quickly verify a historical pattern of usage to see if the high-cost plans are still properly optimized. The same is true on international. We can sort in descending cost and make sure that they are on the best roaming and world calling plan available to them. If we take a look at the one that's World Traveler, it has roaming in Italy but was not calling from the U.S. to outside, so it would not make sense to foreign countries to add the World Connect plan to this phone. And, of course, we can look at the data plans and ensure that the international data usage is not causing excessive usage. So these plans, since they all have international usage, are appropriate. And, again, we can click on a device that is sorted from highest cost to lowest cost. When you click on a device, it synchronizes with the other tabs. So when we click on 7638, we can come to the data tab and see that 7638 is already highlighted and that it shows both domestic and international data usage. So that shows the ease of being able to evaluate so much information across these multiple tabs and the ability to access reports and look at usage reports on these devices to further analyze past historical usage patterns. And in the international, we can see, our data. We can see that what this data usage looks like for this particular device. So the graphs are available with a right mouse click on an individual phone. We can evaluate things from a group or an entire account level. There's only two other items to point out here, and that is that the billing adjustments that were scripted were imported. A late payment charge was billed against a general, not a specific phone number, but as an account level charge. And that there's also a mobile purchase and download charge that was imported, and we'd like to understand what that is. So it's on a phone number that ends in 7500, and it costs $9.99. If we open the invoice and we look for that download, we will see that they actually began subscribing to the AT&T Navigator, which is a monthly subscription for $9.99. So we could allow this to import automatically as a billing adjustment each and every month, or we can take the alternative, particularly if it's something that is a third-party gain or cramming charge that we expect to notify the client of and to recommend canceling it. We would like to be able to cancel it with a as a billable savings. So what we can do is come in and take that particular phone and do an optimization on it. It picks the active account and sub-account for that device, but instead of doing an optimization, we're actually going to add a baseline to it, and we will go to the ancillary features, and we will select our client, and we will make sure that we select that. We'll go back to the date that it was originally added of 4/9, and we will put on here 4/9. Let's see. We have to make sure it's within the right billing cycle, so we'll say 4/9 here. And then we do not have the navigator ancillary feature defined yet for this client, so we will view another ancillary feature and clone it, and we will name it AT&T Navigator with whatever that is, P, and we will take this clone plan. I do not believe that as an application it has a short code or an ID. Make it $9.99, has no meter usage, no short code, and we have no notes to. You can capture other information such as telenav if you want that to be listed as the content provider. And now we have our Brickmont $9.99 ancillary feature to add to 7500 on 4/9, and we create that baseline. So when we return to our usage, and if we notice on the ancillary there were no ancillaries, but if we click refresh, now that that has been defined as an existing feature, it will automatically add that in. And furthermore, when we calculate our costs, it will show up as an ancillary feature for that phone. Let's see here, Navigator on 7500. However, we still have the imported billing adjustment. So now that we've added it in as a monthly recurring, we need to remove it from the billing adjustments. We do not want to double count those charges. So again, if we were to group by service type, the 7500 phone number now has the Navigator listed with $9.99. Oh, I must not have deleted the billing adjustment. Recalculate the cost. There we go. So now with the recalculated cost, it has disappeared and is showing as a monthly recurring. If at some time in the future it gets eliminated, we can go in and do a remove service and make that remove service either billable or non-billable, depending on the nature of the removal. So we do have the bill matching to within $8 out of 15. That's about 0.5% accuracy. We really didn't need to make too many changes other than to understand that there was a late fee billing adjustment, a new ancillary feature that was added, and that the overage costs are a result of the way they're being redistributed, and that's what's causing a mismatch on the red phones. But that total overage cost does match the total from the AT&T invoice. We've already done the check integrity, so once you're satisfied that all optimizations have been, all costs have been validated, and any subsequent optimizations have been identified, then the entries can be journaled into the account. And if there are comments regarding recommendations, they can be captured here. We tend to put in some notes that was matched to within 1% accuracy, and also group share group 1 needs to be increased 1,500 minutes. Once we've completed that audit, we can return to the scheduler, and we can open the task that was due on 6/13. And we only open this occurrence, not the entire series. With that, which is the default, we mark that status as completed, save and close it, and then this table will refresh so that on 7/13 we will have a fresh task automatically created to go and pull and audit the invoice on that same account, which is dated on the 5th of July. If we ever need to, we can go back and look at our completed tasks and sort and group by the task title or by client, and go and examine previously closed tasks in case there's any notes listed in there. That concludes the process for auditing a cellular account, running the scripts, importing the data, reconciling it, and looking for subsequent